don't even open their Spotify anymore. Like I don't. They did that Wonderwall thing, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I saw a TikTok, and I was like, I'm not going to go listen to it.
Wow.
Respectfully, don't come at me, Ollie.
How do you approach the response to your things, or do you care?
We put out some polarizing music. I think we're pretty used to hearing people be like, yo, this is shit and garbage, amidst like people being like, yo, I love this. This is awesome. Not having negative feedback is actually pretty fresh. Time Bomb is like this piece of Cane Hill history that lives in that time period. God forbid I say this.
I've been enjoying the music of Cane Hill for about 9 years at this stage, having first been introduced to them via their full throttle aggressive song called Time Bomb. And over the years, they've demonstrated an ability to experiment and develop their sound over their albums in really surprising and interesting ways, culminating with their most recent album called A Piece of Me I'll Never Let You Find, which is absolutely marvelous. So I'm delighted to have the chance today to chat to vocalist Elijah Witt and drummer Devin Clark from this most excellent band. Thank you, folks, for being here. To begin, I was thinking at the very beginning of your band, about 10 years ago, it sounded like everything was sort of a matter of life and death. It was so aggressive and full on. And I've noticed with your most recent album, there seems to be a more of a casually like controlled, yet still heavy, sort of composed aspect to it. What would you say is the main difference in mindset or approach to the way you're creating your music today versus when you started all those years ago?
I think you said it at the beginning. Time Bomb was a decade ago. I don't know. I was when Devin wasn't there, rest his soul. He was brought into this band after that. I think I was 20. I don't think I could legally drink or anything in America. To specify, since y'all can drink when you're taller than the bar. But no, I think we were just kids back then. I think the landscape of metalcore was different back then. Sworn In was huge while we were writing that stuff. You know what I mean? So like that kind of chaotic, heavy thing was this new cool vibe that James was just kind of naturally on, because he was doing a lot of the writing. He was doing a lot of like, before Devin came in, he was doing the drums, which is why there's like some unrealistic drums in there in the older days. But we were also working with producers who were developing us, so we had like heavier hands from outside sources back then. And nowadays, I think we're mostly in our 30s. We're pretty beat up. We've gone through a decade of touring like 250 days out of the year. Like, shit's beat us down. So I think it makes everything calmer, sadder, and still heavy aggressive, because there's still stories. But I think it's just age. I think we're just old.
We're just old men at this point,
I can't play that fast anymore. I can't scream that many words that quickly. Devin's poor feet, they're getting heavier. That's it.
I think, he's fine. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can see that, but then I think it's more than just like, you might have the likes of a Metallica, say, who are playing now and kind of, standing and delivering their bits and pieces. But I think there's such a big difference between when I first saw you live, it would have been many years ago, Download Festival. You're on the fourth stage, and it was like unbridled, like hysteria. It was pretty full on. I was like, holy shit, so much heavier than I expected it to be. But there's something more captivating now. Like, I saw you at the Underworld in London recently, and there's this calm sort of like, oh yeah, we got you covered. This show's going to be great. Don't you worry. And it draws people in a whole different way. There's a quiet to it. Is that something that's come about from the years of touring going, this needs to be a marathon, not a sprint in every gig? Or has something changed about how you want to deliver your shows?
Devin's nodding like he likes to keep it calm so that he's got durability.
Yeah, I feel like in the past, when I got on stage, I was just, all right, I'm going to give it 100% out the gate. I'm going to go for it, no matter what the fuck happens or what's going on. And over the years, I've kind of found that more of my perfection in playing is like keeping my head while I'm playing and not just full on going into this other mode of like, okay, put this crazy guy in there and beat the shit out of stuff, you know? So more about durability of the body, I feel like, and knowing that like I can accomplish the job, not having to be super crazy, you know, on the kit. You know, I can just, after playing for so long and touring and playing the same music for a decade, I know that I can accomplish that sound and what people want from a live show from Cane Hill, and a little bit reeled in and saving my body a little more, you know.
He's different though. He's a drummer. And I think you're banging shit. And that's fair. And it probably needs to be like that because, you know, he's got simple baby boy wrists with cysts
I got
that
problems.
pop up like Mount Everest. I, on the other hand, did not think of it that way. I got in-ears and I was like, oh, I can be good now. So that was fine. And I always thought of, honestly, back when you saw us, I was one, I was off my rocker. Two, I thought of it as a good cardio set. I was like, if I go on tour and I'm doing 30 minutes of sprinting back and forth, that's good for me and my body. And then the other side of it was like, the music is crazy, so we got to be crazy. And if I'm going to captivate this crowd, I've got to get their energy up. And I used to watch bands that didn't move much on stage, and I was like, this shit sucks. Like, why are they just standing there? And now I think we all walk on stage, and it's not like, I'm not thinking like, oh, I need to captivate this crowd. I'm thinking, I've got this crowd captivated. I think we've done it enough to where I don't care where we are. I don't care who we're playing for. I don't care if we're supporting fucking a metalcore band or ICP or a deathcore, whatever. I'm pretty confident nowadays that I don't think we need to work as hard. I think that's kind of the bottom line, is that we don't need to work as hard because I'm aware of how good we are. And I think the band is aware of how good we are, and we let that kind of speak for it more than flailing like a bunch of yahoos on a stage for no reason.
Yeah, and that's what it seems to be like from the audience. It doesn't seem like it's a performed calmness. It feels like it's kind of very much coming from within. And whether you're supporting Resolve on their tour last year, and it didn't feel like, oh, we're the support act, we're going to be a certain way. It was kind of, that could have been a headline set on itself with the way that was put forward. It's very cool. And in terms of the techniques, drumming wise, still having the impact, Devin, the bell sound on your right cymbal is
I knew you were going to say
something.
it before it came out of your mouth.
Fuck, like I've seen thousands of live sets from bands over the decades. I've never heard anything like that. It was just like so much so that I saw on one of your Instagram posts of the band, Anthony Diliberto from Resolve, he just commented bell emojis. Like that's how much that thing got through.
We used to have a microphone for that bell. We used to have a ride bell, and we'd ask, "Yo, do you want to use the ride bell today?" Nah.
What I mean, do you look forward to that moment? In that, there's a particular song where it is just like absolutely clanging out, right?
Yeah, the song "Kill Me." It's pretty much all the way through that song, and I was channeling my inner Vinnie Paul, and definitely look forward to it because I know I'm going to blow people's faces off with that bell, especially. But that kind of came with like knowing how to control my playing. Back in the day, I was just kind of hitting stuff. And over the years, taking some lessons with some guys to kind of keep my body in shape and knowing how to properly play drums without hurting myself over the years. I figured out that you can make that bell pretty loud and not have to hit hard. So,
do you remember the count on the Plot and U tour that Silent Planet got? Alex, their drummer, he stood over there with a counter and watched him play the set. And it was a ride bell heavy set. Like, we have a pretty ride bell heavy set. I think this was our ride bell heaviest set. And what, over 400?
Yeah, it had to be like 500-600 bells in the set.
Yeah.
Just fun stuff.
Because
that's my metronome.
Yeah.
That's my click.
Yeah. I mean, because if people are on drums, I don't understand. If you hit a bell hard, it ricochets within your wrist. It is a really aggressive.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
no giving it at all. So you'd have to really hone a technique if you're doing 500 of those a night. Like what is it based on? Sorry, I know this is really nerdy, but like the angle of wrist to bell so that there's more motion and kick back allowed. If you hit it sideways, you're going to like damage yourself.
We talking?
Well, honestly, it's all about the shaft, man. You got to get the shaft on the bell, bro. And that's what you lay it down, and the thickest part of the stick is going to give you the most sound. And
it's suspect.
It's suspect, but hear me out. It works. And here's proof.
Gay? Drums gay? Let's go.
Sure. Why not? Marvelous. One of the things I found consistent throughout your band's sound, even though it's evolved in lots of different ways over the years, is groove. It seems like a first-class citizen of your songs. Are there other aspects of Cane Hill that you have kind of you hold dear that you think is important no matter what album era you're like, these are things that sonically we want to kind of keep a hold of? Or in every new set of songs and albums, is it kind of blank canvas and you just want to create something brand new?
I mean, for me, it's definitely got to be the groove for drums. I mean, growing up in New Orleans, there was a lot of groove heavy music in the scene, especially metal. So when I approach writing new songs, it's always about, okay, how do I get a consistent groove that's going to make people kind of move and headbang and feel it more than just like a bunch of breakdowns and double bass that might not have the same kind of impact as like a really heavy groove throughout the song.
I think with Devin in the background, the rest of us don't really have to think about it too much. I mean, we got Devin and Ryan holding down the low end side of things, the percussive, whatever, rhythm. And those two, it just makes it easy. Like, I can just go in and do whatever the fuck I want. And James lays down badass riffs, right? And he's got some whatever drums over it. And then you put Devin and Ryan on it, and it just comes with this shine and this groove that's immeasurable. So, like, legitimately, you asking how we keep the groove in the band is the first time I've ever had to think about it. And Devin explained it. It's just him. It's him and Ryan just sitting in the background being like, this is going to move people's heads, and I'll tell you why. I think it's the 4-5-5-5, the 4-4-6-7 shit, you know? The polyrhythms. I don't know anything about it, but sometimes they give you a breakdown and it doesn't make any sense until you just start laying words on top of it. And you're not, that's what I actually like about them, is sometimes I feel like it's a very Meshuggah-esque kind of vibe to some of the grooves that we have, because I go in there with too many words and absolutely no patterns. And I think Drag Me Down's the perfect example of it. I don't know if it's a change in the tempo, or not tempo, in the signature, or if it's just like a modulation. But something about that groove, which I think spurred the entirety of A Piece of Me, I Never Let You Find, generally. Like, for me, that's like the vibe that we took over, was that. I just had words, and I put it on the riff. And if you tell me to do it without the riff, just to a click, there's absolutely no way in hell that I'd ever be able to do it. Like, I need the groove, and I need the drums to understand why those words fit the way they do. Whereas, like, with a 4/4 lyrical content, you have a stanza, you can read it and you can hear how the pattern's probably supposed to go in your head as you read it. You're like, this is prose, this has been around since 1400. Like, I get it, it's easy to follow. But there's some stuff that it's just like, it only makes sense over what's given to me. And in any other context, it would be very, very weird. I don't know how to explain it any different than that.
No, that is resonating. That is making sense, because this album seems more, and I know this is such a vague and terrible word, but vibey.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, like, the lyrics don't necessarily have to go in these 4/4 chunks. They sort of can spiral and meander around in between different bars and things, depending on where the flow of the groove is. I think that's what gives it kind of, a sort of cohesive nature between the songs themselves, because they're all kind of fluid in that way in this record.
Yeah, these guys kind of let me dance, I guess, is how I like to look at it. Like the vocals just kind of get to I don't know, do ballet here and there, a little bit of jazz step, you know?
Yeah.
Not much hip hop. I don't know how to do it, but the other stuff.
Well, you mentioned hip hop there. This is a tenuous reference, but I was re-listening to the records in advance of our chat today, and there was a song that I'd never really paid much attention to on the first album called French 75. And apparently this is kind of memey, like this band doesn't necessarily connect with that song as much anymore. Look at the lasers on that. Phenomenal.
Sorry, you mentioned French 75.
But I did think, other than the verses, which are kind of a bit of a sort of rap sort of delivery to them, the rest of it is actually kind of vibey in the same way that A Piece of Me is. Actually, there's sort of a thread from there through to now. Would you agree or no?
You have done your research. Yeah, most people that don't see that thread are fucking deaf, is my full-blown opinion. French 75, we hate it. It is a meme. I do love it when people yell it at me at shows because I get to say something rude to them. All of like my intrusive thoughts, like I can say them at that point because people expect it. Like our fan base is cultish enough to be like, oh, I hope he tells me to kill myself. Hell yeah, that's the fan base.
If they shout first, then you got carte blanche to say whatever you want, right?
I can do whatever I want. But from there, so we hate that one, but we get it. Like, we understand it. We know why people like it. I think we know it's a good song deep down. But for us, for Cane Hill and who we are, and even from where we started, it never felt like an us song. But the vibe, like you mentioned, felt like an us vibe. And we took that into, I think Smile, we tried to do something like that with Strange Candy. Like, Strange Candy was our Kill the Sunny vibe. It was like a stripped down, but we were like, we don't want to be super lame with it like we were Kill the Sun, so let's make it Alice in Chainsy. And then
I think Saint Veronica as well.
Saint Veronica's in the same vein as well. Yeah, like a kind of like a downplayed kind of hip hop. Yeah, Saint Veronica's super hip hoppy. I guess that might even be a better reference that I forget about every now and then, because Strange Candy is like, it's the juice. But on Too Far Gone, it was like Swamp. Singing in the Swamp was like that downtrodden kind of weird hip hoppy upbeat kind of vibe. And then we did Kill the Sun, and Kill the Sun was literally us being like, if French 75 is so good and Alice in Chains is such a good band as well, why don't we make a whole thing out of it? And to this day, some of our best work, I don't care what anybody says. And I can say that because everyone I talk to tells me they love it. So I do care what people say. Yeah, that's the curveball there. They like it. Sometimes I like to make sure that I'm not speaking too negatively on it, because I feel like our rollout and marketing plan with it didn't do it any justice. So it was misunderstood on our end, and we thought that it didn't do well. But the amount of people that come up to me and tell me that they found us through Kill the Sun, or that Kill the Sun's their favorite work, that's why this line from French 75 has made it from that EP to this album since going independent. So from when we were signed to a label, we dropped all that stuff for those two EPs. And aside from the heavy stuff, a lot of the soft stuff was, again, based off of the vibes of Kill the Sun, which is based off of the vibes of French 75. And then we carried that into this album. And there's a song on this album that Devin wrote the majority of, actually, which is French 76, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of took the roadmap of 75 and was like, let's make this a little modern, you know. Let's try this again.
Sorry to take you on that long journey. It's like the whole like Gerard Way song 9/11, and then Twilight was written. Now you have 50 Shades of Grey thing, but on like a smaller scale.
Yeah, but I love that, because to the unversed, perhaps you might hear this album and be like, oh, they've really discovered a whole new thing. It's like, actually, this has always been here. It's been refined over the years, and now it's kind of culminating. And what is seemingly universally touted as a very well received album. I haven't heard a single person who's like, this has gone really well. Certainly in the metalcore community, this is a much beloved album. Have you been able to enjoy that kind of feedback, or do you try not to pay attention to it? Because if you can take the good, you have to take the bad. Like, how do you approach the response to your things, or do you care?
I mean, personally, I'm pretty used to seeing negative because we put out some polarizing music with an album that has a song called Cream Pie.
Certainly did.
Yeah, we did it. So I think we're pretty used to hearing people be like, yo, this is shit and garbage amidst like people being like, yo, I love this. This is awesome. So not having negative feedback is actually pretty fresh. And I've noticed a similar thing. I mean, I've seen people be like, yo, this ain't my cup of tea, but I don't see the negativity that I usually see when bands release music, at least bands like us release music who have been polarizing in the past. And we put it out with other bands in the same week. I was seeing other bands get torn apart a lot more. So I felt pretty good about ourselves. You know, when you see when the hate is directed towards somebody else's release and everyone's like, yeah, I'm going to go listen to fucking Cane Hill. This kind of sucks. That's when you're like, yeah, come put on Cane Hill.
Open arms.
We put out a good record. Come here. Come here.
Certainly did. And I hadn't realized until I saw kind of behind the scenes footage on your Instagram that this was done with Landon Tours. I don't know how I missed that entirely, but he seemed involved in some of this.
He was involved, yeah. I won't take credit away from Jonathan DeLeese, who is the overall producer of this record and has been with us since we were doing those EPs in Louisiana independently. But Landon came in for some pretty vital songs. Finding Euphoria was a heavily influenced Landon song. He came in there with that and he was like, I think this will be cool. And we're like, we can make that, King Hill. And then again, he was a heavy hand in that Front 76 song. Can you remind me the name of it? Because Devin, I've smoked.
How could you lose?
How could you lose? Yeah. I knew it had a question mark in it. You might be surprised. This is only I think the second time I've talked about this album with somebody.
What?
I think it's Devin's first. Yeah, I've been rejecting interviews like crazy. So I don't remember the names. I watch your reviews and I watch all your stuff on YouTube. I like it.
Thank you.
You've made us feel pretty good.
It's
you
all deserved.
You also give some of the most detailed musician sided opinions on things. You'll stop the songs and you'll point out things that we're nobody's gonna notice, and you'll stop and be like, did they do this? And we're like, this is who we did it for. The fucking the nerds.
The music nerd. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a joy. I love that stuff because I'm so curious when I hear. I mean, as you probably tell, I was in bands mostly in my 20s, playing a variety of instruments there. So when I hear music, I hear every line. I hear the production and things. And I notice anything that's out of the expectation, I go, oh, well, how did they do that? What's interesting there? In fact, there's a particular song of yours on the new record. I'm trying to remember what it is now. I don't have it. There's a particular one where the note you sing at the start of a chorus, there's a vocal effect on it.
Dude.
What is making that slightly, it's not auto-tune necessarily. There's some kind of effect on it that makes it a pure note. What have you done there?
Are you talking about Doomed? The beginning that
that's the one, yes. That's it.
I think that's just tune.
Okay.
I think that's just a minor tune.
It's so pure. It almost sounds like a keyboard note once it hits. I wondered if there was some kind of, because autotune is one thing, but also an effect could have a built-in note. This effect on this note.
We sometimes layer. We'll take a synth and layer it under a vocal. Sometimes I'm not sure if Jonathan did that to there, but the usual effects that we use are just a flanger or a chorus. And then some pretty Alter Boy is a plugin that I love. It's probably on that, in the low background, and that adds a small chorus around you of a choir of young religious men in a Catholic church.
Synonymous with the Cane Hill sound, sure.
Synonymous with the Cane Hill sound. But that's That's a crazy question because I really don't think there's anything crazy there. I would
Okay.
tell you if I knew there was something crazy there because I don't really care. But I'm
No, it doesn't matter either way. It's
I gotta
literally
text
again just
John. I gotta
curiosity.
text Jonathan and be like, "Yo, what's that?" I'll text you on the side. I'll be like, "It was this."
Yeah. I think because I was listening out for that live as well, because there is that live. So I'm assuming you're playing to clicks, so you can have some different variety kind of vocal. I'm sure there's some moments that the vocal there's an effect on in certain moments in songs. Are you playing to like a MIDI organized thing live for those moments?
Devin, take that one. I don't know what's going
Yeah,
on.
so we've been kind of experimenting with what's the program?
Waves. I know that.
Waves plugins, so we can kind of like really go in. We've had a lot of front of houses over the years, and as of recently, we've kind of been going through some people, and we were just at home rehearsing and thinking to ourselves, how can we achieve these effects like you're talking about live with all these revolving people coming in and out, you know, for different various reasons. So Waves plugins, we started working with that, and it just ties in with your computer and helps kind of give you more access to beefier things that aren't necessarily on a normal front of house
We
board.
didn't
You know,
we didn't use that in the UK though because we had Dan, huh? James said he didn't really bother with the plugins because Dan
I
was
know
new and didn't have
we
much
used it
experience with them.
with Resolve. That was like
Yeah, we
the
did,
first tour
and
because
that was
their
because
front of house
Marin
Marin
used them.
is incredible and insane. And he was doing that with Resolve. And we were like,
Much
"Yo,
respect to Marin.
what is that? Like, what are you doing over there? Let's try with us."
Yeah, we sound normal and y'all sound crazy. Explain.
Yeah, they're doing great things. They do sound and appear ready to do essentially like arena rock stuff.
They're one of my
very
favorite bands
polished.
right now in heavy. Like,
Amazing musicians too. Crazy.
I completely transparent. Like we're in America, we don't hear about European bands as much. It's just it is what it is. So when we got the
Of course.
Resolve offer, I was like, I don't know who Resolve is, but I know that French metalcore is doing great things right now. French
Yeah.
metal, Gojira, like go beyond the core. But you know, you have Landmarks, 1056, Resolve, more. And they're all doing huge things. And I looked up Resolve and we listened to them, and I was like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense, and I fucking love it. It's like us if we were hopeful and positive in only a way that the French could be. And I don't know. They sorry to get sidetracked with Resolve. I just think they write some of the best songs. I think they can get away
Yeah.
with 6-minute songs in a genre where a lot of bands can't because they're ballad geniuses. They have these storylines in their songs and these big curveballs and arcs that take you through like emotional journeys, and I love it. And I want to write with Anthony really bad. I talked to him a little bit about that as another side note. Devin, if we get a French song going, I'm telling you, people be like, what?
Game
That's
over,
pretty
dude.
weird.
We're
Yeah, it's almost like it's a sort of emotional pop ballad that they turn into a metalcore song. It's like the core of it is wholesome and connective, and then the rest is just lifting.
Yeah, I
it
don't
up
get
somehow.
it, but it's really good. I don't know how to do that, and that don't make no sense to me from like a songwriting standpoint, but I like being a part of it from an audience perspective. I'm like, oh, we can overcome. We will. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And then I get to my own set, and I'm like, I'm going to kill myself. And everyone here.
But there's a special power with yours as well, like 100%. I think it's a moment that really stand out for me is my absolute favorite song off this most recent album, "The Midnight Sun." You have the sort of low-fi spoken word in the calmness in the middle. It's like, you know, I'm becoming the midnight sun, and then you go into the full throttle like scream vocal. That immediate from 2 to 11 is an amazing transition that is just as powerful, I think, as some of the bigger, you know, sing-along moments. Do you enjoy that, like delivering that, knowing the big up to 11 intensity is coming? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, sometimes no. Sometimes we get to like the fifth song, and I'm like, we've dropped out a lot to go into big moments. And that's so one thing you got to know about me is when I'm on stage, 7% of the time I'm thinking about what I'm singing, and the rest of the time I'm ADD. I'm gone. And when I come back, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing good, and that's when I mess up. So I really just got to stay gone. I got to stay gone the whole time. But one of the prevailing thoughts is like, we'll get to like the fifth song. I'm like, damn, we have dropped out a lot for these big heavy moments. I hope people still like this. And the good part is after all my doubt on the 15th show in a row where I have the same thought in the same moment, everybody loses their minds and loves it. And I'm like, oh, that's thank God. So that's my internal monologue in those big heavy parts. The parts I really look forward to is the part that you were asking about, the effect on it in Doomed. That's like
Right.
that is my favorite part to do in the whole set. I love that note. I like doing the little falsetto, like the extra falsetto chirp at the end. And I got a text back from my producer. He said it's just a lot of layers.
Okay, yeah, because I suppose a bunch of vocal tracks at the same time can
many
bring
layers.
it in. Yeah. Okay, cool.
That makes sense. Because I was like, I don't think there's anything crazy. It's just a really big note. But that's my favorite part of the whole set. Yeah. Breakdowns are fun. Breakdowns are cool. I like singing falsetto.
Yeah. I mean, what another interesting thing that you might like to hear potentially, I noticed towards the end of the set, I noticed, you're very clear about this. When you finished with Time Bomb, you were going, who knows, maybe this is the last time we'll play this one live. And part of me, obviously, that's the first song I ever heard. So it's like, oh, this is my, foundation of Cane Hill. I'm so excited to play this. But actually, I think your newer songs outshone it. And I don't think it was that close. I can see why you'd be like, that was a thing that we did well then. But where we are now is more us and more complete. And actually, I think it's oddly harder than what is a really hard song. What is in your heads about moving away from that song, something to include in your sets in future potentially?
And for me, it's like, we're not Bullet. We didn't write Scream, Aim, Fire. We didn't write Tears Don't Fall. We don't have to keep playing a hit that billions of people know the words to and like got married to. It's Time Bomb. It's a part of our past from like when we were, again, 19 or 20, and it's like, I know it resonates with old fans, but what you said hits kind of the nail on the head, is that when we do play it, I mean, there are people who have been here for 10 years, like yourself, who like it, and we can see it and we can feel it, and that's special. But there is a loss. There's like a loss in energy when we get to it, in my opinion, that we had while we were playing, even into Too Far Gone. Like Too Far Gone ending the set, like energy's still there. People are losing their minds. They're like, this is the song. I'm so happy that. So for me, it's not Time Bomb. Time Bomb is like this piece of Cane Hill history that lives in that time period and can be brought out for special moments if we really want to. But I don't even think the majority of the people who like Cane Hill, beyond people like yourself who have been here for 10 years, even fuck with Time Bomb. And if they do, God forbid I say this, hang me on a cross, I don't care. But I don't think the lyrics are good. I think the lyrics are so bad. And it is really hard for me to stand on stage and yell those lyrics at people and like with a smile on my face, like, yeah, I'm loving this. And I don't like playing songs that we don't love playing, because that's not what I'm up there to do. I'm not up there to give you my 5% and mess up the lyrics on purpose and add fucking suicide silence screams to a song that doesn't need it just because that's how it gets me through it. I want to give the best set. I want to play our best songs. I want to sing my little heart out and love every moment of it, because that's what's going to resonate more with people. And I can get off stage and people are like, oh yeah, I even heard people come up and be like, I wish you had tried harder on Time Bomb. I'm like, well, fuck me, huh?
They would say that?
People are brutally honest.
That's rude.
I don't.
I mean, to be fair, some of the lyrics you're just kind of like,
yeah, I'm literally not saying words. So respect to them for coming to tell me and be like, yo, you suck. I'm like, I know. I hate this song. Poor Devin has to hold it down and do the real thing.
Dude, and those drums are no joke, man. Like
They're
Witt
not
was
real.
saying,
Yeah,
James
was
wrote the
writing
parts, and there's some MIDI hits in there because it's MIDI drums where I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna play what I'm playing right now and make it work, you know?
Yeah, this is an interpretation.
Yep.
Well, I don't necessarily agree the lyrics are bad. I think there's power in simplicity. I think they're fun. But everything else you said,
time and
that
place.
totally makes sense. Yeah.
When I wrote them with Drew Falk back in the day, I was like, yeah, this is gas. So
Yeah.
I think it's just all time and place for me. I mean, again, I understand that from a fan perspective. I mean, I look at old Good Charlotte music and I'm like, this is the best. How come you guys don't play the click? You know, some deep cuts that nobody knows about, like, because that shit sucks. I'm like, you suck. Kill yourself. You know. So from like a fan perspective, I wholly 100% understand, and I assume that when you listen to Time Bomb, there's probably a piece of you from back then that it is associated with. You know what I mean? So for me, it's associated with a time I don't like. You know, all the way through Smile and Too Far Gone. It's time periods I don't really fuck with in my life. But that EP very especially. So you take where I was, you take what I was feeling, the fact that Devin wasn't even there. So why are we playing these songs that Devin wasn't a part of? And then all the songs that we've written since then, and all the lyrical content that for me that I've built since then. I just feel like for me, my story's beyond that. Even playing Too Far Gone at this point, I'm like, I'm lying. I'm lying while I scream this song because I am certainly not too far gone anymore. I reflect on those days often and think about the growth since then. So where's the honesty and the truth in Too Far Gone at this point for me, even aside from the fact, great song. I love to play it. It was a very genuine and real part of our time and lives. So that one's easy to reflect on and enjoy. And I think people like it more. But the EP, the whole EP back then, I mean, Oxblood, that song fucks. I think that's it for me.
Yeah, I hope that other people would have the same sentiment as this. But my view is, what I'm more interested in than having a band play the songs that I personally really want them to play is having the band enjoy playing and therefore do it for longer. Like that, I think that's far more important than like getting the couple of songs that is not going to sustain them. Like any actual fan of a particular band would want them to keep going, and whatever that means. We're like, the whole reason they were fans to begin with is because of whatever creative decisions you made back in the past when they first found you, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. So it behooves you to keep following your creative core decisions, because then that's how the whole thing started to begin with. So why would that?
I think that's a European continental sentiment that does not exist in the United States of America.
What do you think that would be?
We've seen it. We've seen it for a decade over there. Music. UK is pretty on par with the US as far as like modern socioeconomics, but the history there, I think, lends itself to the UK and being contiguous with the European continent right there. But anyway, so history, American mindset, 200 years old, founded on capitalism. The founders of like shiny new, buy shiny new, throw out perfectly good old. But Europe and the UK have had arts. You have had foundations for centuries. You have had respect for music, visual, audio, metaphysical art, whatever, all of it, all arts, like hundreds of stories of wizards creating art with magic, right? But you go down and you boil it down, and there's like a cultural respect for art and artists in Europe and UK and even Asia that America just does not have. And I don't know if it's because we haven't been around long enough, or if it's just boils down to how we have treated art and money in this country for the past 100 years. I mean, because we had Impressionism, America had Impressionism. We had big literary movements, and that, modern art, Jackson Pollock fucked it, I think. Andy Warhol with the fucking Campbell's soup. Just things you can buy. But to stop being ADD and going down the long road, yeah, Europe cares, UK cares, and I think y'all are better at understanding that side of artists and growth and development and passion versus America, where it's like, well, you put out 10 songs that I hate because I listened to 2 of them and they were bad because they didn't quite sound like what you put out 3 years ago. So I'm never going to listen to anything you do again, and I certainly won't come to the show.
Yeah, it's a wild mindset. I've never really thought about the kind of capital aspect of that before necessarily, because it is easier in theory to sell something to a built-in audience a similar thing as before. I understand that should make marketing easier. Whereas we have a new sound here. It's like, well, who do we sell this to? I don't know yet. What if the old crowd doesn't want that? Who is the new crowd? We don't know yet. But also, if you do change something, like, to a degree, you've developed things in a new dimension with the latest album, you might lose a percentage of the current fans before that album, but you might gain 400% of a whole new audience and take most of the ones from past before. Like that is where growth happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look at Bring Me the Horizon, probably the easiest band in the scene to point out as far as changing sound and losing fans but gaining more. I respectfully haven't listened to anything since That's the Spirit. I love That's the Spirit. I put on some Ammo songs. I didn't like them. I didn't continue listening. I'm American.
See, Ammo's sick for me, dude. That's the record.
But did you listen to anything after it?
Wow.
Anything after it?
Yeah.
I listened to the first EP thing, the Post-Human.
Couple songs, Not For You, and then you didn't keep listening? American.
No. Yeah, exactly.
But I'm a Lost fan 6 years ago. Devin's a Lost fan 3 years ago. But they have built for my loss, they probably gained 75 to 1.
Yeah.
And then with Ammo, I mean, let's do 75 to 1 on Ammo. Let's be honest, maybe like 250 to 1 on Ammo. And then Post-Human, 75 to 1, because they got weirder. So you have to take into account that the weirder you get, the smaller your margins are going to be for what kind of fan base you can grow with it. But this is all just theoretical mathematics.
No, but yeah, it's within the wheelhouse of what can be understood. They lost me with Ammo, but I kept returning because I'm like, well, they're welcome to go and do that. Yeah,
European, dude. That's what I'm saying. European.
Like,
I don't even open their Spotify anymore. Like I don't. They did that Wonderwall thing, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I saw a TikTok, and I was I'm not going to go listen to it.
Wow. Yeah.
Respectfully.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Ollie.
But what's really interesting to me is that you relate to that, and yet you can also see the frustration of that potentially within your audience. How do you marry those two things?
Cry at night.
Acceptance.
Watch our Spotify numbers do whatever they do. I don't know. That's kind of always been our thing. Is I think, especially since originally going independent, is that we just kind of we don't care too much anymore. We're just writing what we want. I think a lot of our older music, we were writing what we thought people wanted. And with this stuff, we're just like, we're either going to do well or we're going to disappear. So we might as well enjoy what we're putting out. And if it connects with new people, hell yeah. If it connects with old people, hell yeah. And if it doesn't, connected with me, connected with Devin, connected with James, and connected with Ryan. And that's kind of like the most important thing to us, is that we're putting out what we want. Obviously, we want to get bigger and we want to grow and we want this to be more financially stable for us. We just got to enjoy it. We got to enjoy what we're doing while we do it. So can't care about what fans are going to think too much. If you write good music, fans should like it. I think that's the bottom line.
I'd agree. And also, if there is a risk that you might release something and disappear, the worst case scenario is you put out something that you didn't really want to do and then disappear. You'd be like, oh, well then, like...
Yeah, my swan song was someone else's, At that point, it's like, oh, what was the point of this? So yeah, we're doing the Cane Hill thing, Swamp Boys. Woo.
Smart boys for life. Well, it's working. Clearly, it's going well. And you mentioned there, going independent. I'm interested in that. I'm sure you've probably talked about this to death, perhaps in some ways. And I heard some bits on the Garza podcast interview that you did there, and you were mentioning that you sort of saw behind the curtain a little bit of things you thought or you had the impression were happening with the band, and then you see actually behind the curtain things aren't what they seem. There's bridges burned that you didn't know were burnt and all that stuff. Were you seeing those things? And then that led you to go, oh shit, let's go independent? Or did you see those after you went independent and realized, oh, what island are we on here?
I mean, we can just be honest. I mean, we didn't go independent. We lost our label and management. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And then COVID hit, and we were like, well, we're not going to try to get picked up by a label during COVID. We'll just make money. So it was like an opportunist moment on our end to be like, we've talked to some labels. Don't really fuck with them. I don't think they know what we want to do. And the last thing we put out was an acoustic EP, technically, so people are confused. We saw it as like a good opportunity to like clean slate it, you know. But yes, so I guess yes, in the end, I mean, while it wasn't necessarily our choice the whole time throughout, it was the nature of the business. When it came to decision time of whether like, hey, we can give up, we can keep trying to get new management and label or new label, because we had gotten kind of like a manager who was helping out, but like we can either give up, we can try to get a label still, or we can run this band, because if some dude that lives 500 miles away and doesn't pay much attention can run it, I'm sure we can. So it was mostly just opportunists. We're like, we don't feel like we got too much debt. We'd have no power. People think we're an acoustic band now. Just got to dig ourselves out. So we did. And then we got tired of digging, and we signed to another label, and now I miss digging, you know?
I was about to ask, like, what is having experienced both of those things, what is the ideal balance of the control you'll get for being independent, but also the networking effects and acceleration you can get from other partnerships?
It doesn't exist. I don't think there is an ideal balance until you have more power. Like your ideal balance comes from weight, like your own weight. So if we could pack out 4,000 cap rooms by ourselves, don't need nothing. But until then, I mean, being independent is just hard. Just hard. It's fruitful. The money was better. God, the money was better. And we did everything kind of on our own terms. So we didn't have to get approval for anything. We didn't write something and then be like, yo, let's put this out. And then you wait and you wait and you wait, and then it comes out. It was just, we didn't have to be like, hey, do you think this is a good idea to get yada yada involved? And they'd be like, why would we do that? Because that's what labels love, being like, why would we involve someone else? And it's like, you guys don't like growth. You just like little numbers on spreadsheets.
Safe bets.
Yeah, safe bets. And so honestly, yeah, I think, and Devin, would you agree it was like we didn't have to do safe bets when we were independent? We just
it was also a thing of the time too. Like everyone kind of got reset. You know,
Mm-hmm.
No one's touring, no one's doing anything because all the labels are like, "What do we do? How do we recruit during this time?" And we took that as an opportunity to be like, we're just going to put out some songs that we like, that we want to write, and it was some of the best responses that we had up until that point. Surprisingly, having a full team and then not having a full team.
Yeah, that's wild.
I think people liked it. I think people resonated with that too, because they were like, band that tours internationally doesn't have a label and is still putting music out. They haven't found a new label. Why? And I think we were transparent about it the whole time, which was fun for me. Probably also caused some backlash within the industry for us. But yeah, it was fun to be like, yo, this is what it was like being on a label. Like nobody tells you because they signed to another label and they can't really talk about it, or they're afraid.
Right.
We're already kind of in the shits anyway. It's COVID, and again, last thing we put out was an acoustic album. So what do y'all think? Let me be straightforward and honest with you about all the things that went on with us, how we feel, and how we're going to continue doing this on our own just to see if it works. And I think that really, really helped us because it resonated with the people who were listening to us in a time period where there was a lot of discourse about who labels are, what they do, and why we still have them. We were like, yeah, well, you know what? Fuck it. I mean, everyone's saying you don't need a label. Let's go see if we do. And for a long time, we didn't. And I still don't think there was ever a moment where we're like, we need a label. It was just like, we kind of are tired of doing it on our own. We got a little bit busier. And money is real. You know, labels have money. I don't know where it comes from, but labels have money. And it's easier to take money that's given to you than work really hard for it. So I think we got really American with it there for a minute.
I could imagine that in that time of the pandemic where so little of life seemed to be in anyone's control, it must have been nice to have something you could actively control, look after, push forward, rather than wait for who knows when things will change.
Yeah, I mean, in COVID, bands on labels are basically waiting for labels to be like, yo, yeah, you can go do this. Here's your funds. And we found Jonathan, our producer, and he was like, I'll track your stuff for free because I like y'all and I think it'll be good for me. And I was like, that's stupid, but okay.
I'll accept before you change your mind.
I accept. It was originally just demos. He was just doing vocal demos for me. And then I was like, you know what? This kid's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, why don't you do the whole thing?
Why is he in Kenner, Louisiana in a 2-bedroom apartment tracking local bands? Let's start paying you. And he brought Power of the High to life. He brought Blood and Honey to life. All those songs from those EPs we put out were because John was like, yo, you lost your label? That's nuts. What if I did some stuff for really cheap and we put it out and it went really well? And I was like, that sounds really cool. And it worked out. And now he lives in Nashville and charges a lot more for songs. I think he's at like $2,000 a song. He's tracking real bands now instead of locals. Great. Like he's got real clientele. I'm really proud of him. That's another reason I really like those independent years because everything was local. Everything was a Louisiana person. Everything was our friends or people from the local area that could help us and that we could help in whatever way possible. Like, because again, we made money independently, so we could spend money and pay people appropriately and work with people that understood it. Because when another sidetrack, and then honest to God, I think I have to go to work.
Sure.
But when we work with people from out of Louisiana, trying to explain what we want to be like Louisiana-y, it's very, very hard. I'm sure talking to a guy from the UK, it might be hard to conceptualize, but I don't know, explaining the Louisiana culture, Louisiana vibes, the Louisiana like environment.
I've not been.
In New Orleans.
I've just seen whatever I see from the New Orleans Saints. That's about it.
Son, tragic. Come down to New Orleans, visit it, and I think it'll help you understand. Like, go outside the city and just drive around or be driven around, and you'll be like, oh yeah, this is hard to explain. Meet the people. The people are so strange and different and kind. It's just a different world, and having directors or artists or people like label reps and managers, really even down door managers and booking agents not being from New Orleans, it's like it's trying to get a point across that is very hard to see in your head unless you live it and experience it and are raised in it. My wife has taken years to understand New Orleans. She lived there for 5 years and she was like, yeah, nothing's going to be like this, because we moved to Tennessee and it's very different.
Interesting. Well, one day I'll have to go there. Perhaps that'll help me understand your music even more and enjoy it for what it is even more so. Thank you very, very much for your time. Yeah. No, it's been a joy to chat to you both about this wonderful group you have and that amazing album you released. I'm really looking forward to whatever it is you do next, even if it's the next Ammo and I check out. I don't know. Don't mind. Whatever you're doing, follow what you enjoy.
The next thing we're going to do is going to be so good. We have exactly 0 riffs written. So I can guarantee it.
Great. Well, it's an exciting prospect. Either way, like, best of luck with what's next. You're doing great things. Really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you very much again for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the videos that you've posted about us. Honestly, like, it helps us. It helps us, and I just truly enjoy watching them.
Thank you. That's wonderful to hear. It's not something I expect, but I really appreciate that. Thanks.
Start expecting it. That shit's good. A lot of people put out bad content. Jesus Christ. I watch some bad ones too, and I remember them.
Well, what a treat to catch up there with Witt and Devin from Cane Hill and find out a bit more about what the songwriting mindsets are for them and how they developed A Piece of Me I'll Never Let You Find. And they seem to be on a cool, positive trajectory going forwards as well. I have every faith that what they do in future is going to be just as interesting and compelling. They just seem to get better as time goes on. So that was, a wonderful conversation. Hopefully you enjoyed that as well. Make sure to check the links in the description of this episode. I'll put links to their social media platforms so you can catch up with their latest releases and tours in future. Also, if you want to join a Discord server where I chat about music offline in between the videos I make, there's a link to my Discord server in there as well. And do subscribe to this podcast if you'd like to see more interviews like this, and let me know who you think I should interview next. Thank you for watching this or tuning in on whatever podcast platform you've enjoyed this from. Hopefully, you'll check out another episode very soon.